Alright then, so following on from the last video where I was manufacturing the exhaust systems, the downpipe and the midpipe for the Supra, I'm now making a start, as you can see with this box and the fact that I've just roughly mounted the intercooler on the front. I think you can see where this is going. So, in here, I've actually ordered myself a universal intercooler piping kit. Now this is a 3-inch kit. So it should complement everything else that I've got going on here quite nicely, apart from the fact that the intercooler has got 2.5-inch inlets and outlet, but there's plenty of scope there, as you can see, to put a 3-inch inlet onto these. So that is going to be part of the process, but it's mainly for getting the pipes in place and sort of sorted out so that I can get them all welded up. So let's just get to it, shall we? See what we've got in the box. So as you can see in the box, I've got 2 straight lengths there. I'm probably not going to use so much of that, but I might use the ends off of these to weld to the intercooler itself. And then I've got some nice flared ends there for the silicone couplers to attach to. I've got a load of these, the MK4 clips I think they are. So I've got a load of them. Pop them down there for the time being, then they're out of the way. And then I've got a load of silicone joints, so it's not too bad. But I think the first one I need to start with is a 45 from the turbo down. Now, the only trouble I've got today is because my manifold and my exhaust's basically away for welding, I can't do the exhaust side of things because there's no manifold, there's no turbo, so obviously I don't know where that pipe wants to go. So the only thing I can really do is the inlet side, but that means just dropping the inlet plenum back on and sort of figuring out where to go from there. Right, so I've just dropped the inlet plenum back on for now so that I can start mocking up, but then I remembered one crucial thing. I'm no longer running the Q45 throttle body. I'm going to be running the Bosch 82mm electronic throttle body. So I need to take this off and then look at making an adapter, because I know the adapters are bloody expensive and at the minute I cannot afford one. Now I did have a big block of aluminium which was a Q45 adapter for something else. It might have just been to space that out, I can't remember. So I'm going to go and have a look at that and see if I can adapt that to fit the new Bosch sensor. But first thing first, I just want to get that Q45 off of there and then we can take it from there. So now that's that off, I can offer this up, and as you can see, that was an adapter plate that went on the end of there, so you can have it that way or that way, it doesn't make any difference. But this will bolt to that easy enough, it's getting it to bolt to this. So as you can see, when I put that there, I'll line it up. Obviously the bolt holes don't line up because they're completely different, which is fine. So I was going to try and clock this over at an angle so that I'll have a bit of meat here for a hole so that the throttle body can bolt to this. I'll be okay down here because I'll have meat near the hole. But obviously over here that bolt hole is missing and that bolt hole is as near as damn it right on the edge of that plate. So I honestly don't think that I'm going to have enough material on this plate to make an adapter to suit that. So I'm just going to have to go and have a bit of a think and see what I can do. But I'm going to try and make it work because I genuinely can't afford 150 quid, I think they are. I think there might be one on offer at the moment, but it's all the way over in Australia, so I'll be waiting weeks for that to turn up anyway. But I'm going to try and make this fit, so just bear with me. So I cut a little chamfer in the side there just to see how close I can sort of get this, but no matter sort of where I slide it, once I drill holes for the bolts to go through, obviously I can't have a bolt head sitting on this side of the face, it has to be a counter sunk or counter bored hole so that the head of the bolt will go in it. the diameter of the size of the bolt heads, once they are sort of put into place, they're going to be in the way of the bolts that have to then go through to hold to the inlet plenum. So the throttle body and, well, this is the throttle body, and the plenum bolts will then end up just clashing in the holes. So no matter how much I mess about with this plate is just not quite going to do what I need it to do, unfortunately. So it's looking like I'm going to have to buy an adapter, because I don't have any other metal. I don't do alley. So yeah, I don't have a lot of aluminium spares, unfortunately. And what's going on here? So yeah, so on this adapter plate, I cut a chamfer on the edge of it there, as you can see. Just chamfered it off slightly. I've tried as good as I can to keep the hole central, and to see roughly where the holes will align. Now that hole and that hole will be spot on, because they've got the great big bit of meat here that can be sort of drilled into. But again, on this side I've only got half a hole, so I can't thread that. And this side I would be able to do it, but if you can imagine, let me get a bolt to show you. Obviously this is just a normal bolt, but if I was to get a captive head bolt, ones that use Allen keys, I'm going to have to backfill. So basically, so that would be facing up, screwed into the plenum, and then the holes for this would then be screwed into this from the other side of this inlet. So once I've got that head of that bolt sunk into the other side, underside of this hole, basically, where the other bolt would come through, it would hit the head of said bolt. So unfortunately, no matter of whichever orientation I put this and how much messing about I do with it, it's just not going to fit the way in which I intend it to. So unfortunately, on this occasion, it's looking like I'm going to have to buy an adapter, which I really don't want to do, because I also need the adapter that takes the, basically this part of the throttle body, which has got an O-ring seal on it, basically turn that into like the flared end of the intercooler piping, basically, so you can slide a silicon coupler on it. So yeah, I'm a bit stumped because I need to buy two, and I think at the minute there's an offer on, and it's still gonna be like over 200 quid. I just can't afford to do this shite. So unfortunately, for the time being, I'm gonna have to put that on hold, because I just can't at the minute. So seeing as I can't do anything else with that adapter, I've had to order one. So I've got one off eBay, I think it's about 40 odd quid. So it's not too bad, but I still need to weld it to that Q45 flange. So yeah, so until that turns up, can't really do anything on that. So one thing that I can do now that I'm back under the carport and getting back to the intercooler, basically it's only held at the minute. I've just put a riv nut in there just to support it. So as you can see underneath, there's currently no supports for it. So I need to make some tabs that will weld onto that new chassis frame jacking point that I made a couple of months ago, so that I can get this intercooler properly mounted. But before I do that, I need to make sure that the front bumper fits around it all. So the only way to do that is to fit the thing, not fully, but just drop it on there and see how it fits. So it's literally just dropped on there. There's no way in hell that it's in its final position, obviously, but as you can see, there's plenty of clearance down there, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of clearance for everything around here. It is going to get a little bit close to this, like the vents here, so to speak. So these inlets, I think there's an indicator goes in here, but the rest of it's just open. But as you can see, it might get a little bit close to that, so the angle straight out the intercooler will have to go as quickly as possible. Can't be lingering about with it. So it, yeah, so from the turbo here, it's going to be down to a 45 angle, it'll go off underneath there, loop around like through that gap, and then link up to the intercooler here. So you can see end of it there. So I've got all this space around here to play with really. So in terms of space, it looks like I've got plenty to be going at really. So I'm rather happy with that. So yeah, so I can't really do much more until I've got everything back from the welders and the that throttle body plate adapter turns up. So I'm just trying to think what else I can get on with whilst I'm waiting for that. Right, so one thing that I can be doing is the washer bottle. So as you can see, this is a brand new washer bottle. This one down here is the original washer bottle. Ideally, I'd like to just put this one back in, but because of the plenum issue and its location into where it fits and the way it kicks out, I'm actually going to put a hole in the floor here. So this is where the battery originally used to be. So when I put a hole through there, that, let me just get down there and show you. So that, stand up for a minute, that there is basically the location of said washer bottle. So once that's put into position there, as you can see, it is exactly underneath there where I need to drill a great big hole. So unfortunately I can't use the original washer bottle even if I wanted to, because it's just going to get a big hole put all the way through it. So I bought this one, I think I got it from Demon Tweaks. I think it was about 20 quid for the full kit. Comes with pump, bits of hose and all this, that and the other. Now I did think about putting this in the boot, which is what a lot of people have done in the past, and then you just connect the rear spray nozzle for the rear wiper basically to this pump, and instead of it pushing it out of the rear window, it pushes it down the front of the car and squirts out the bonnet that way. So it utilises the original hose work, but I don't want to keep putting stuff in the boot, especially fluids, because if it leaks it'll start stinking. So my idea is this, obviously because this pipe's kicking out this way, this area here is currently redundant, there's nothing going in there. So I was thinking if I just drill a small hole in the chassis rail there and put a M6 riv nut, I can install this down here in this gap so it's tucked away nice and neatly, and all I've got to do then is run a little bit of hose from there underneath the chassis rail and link it up to basically this hose here, which goes down and runs over the wheel arch anyway to where the original fuel pump switches plugs were. And also that means that these plugs, they don't need extending too far. If I was to put it in the boot, it means a full new set of wires to the boot, so it's just another faff. I'm going to stand over here, so that sun's really warm under here. So yes, I think I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to get me drill now, drill an M6 hole and riv nut it and get that installed there, and then that's something else sort of ticked off the list whilst I'm waiting for other bits to turn up. But before I just go gung-ho and thinking, oh that'll fit there, I need to make sure that the original radiator shroud, once that's on the radiator, isn't going to clash with it. So if I'd have just thrown that in exactly where I was going to put it, it would have been in the way of that lip on that shroud there. So as you can see now, it wants to stand off from the chassis because it's hitting the anti-roll bar mount there. So I can make a little spacer for it to bolt to, so it's just got a bit of a standoff there. I don't think it'll mount that way because there's nothing to mount it to, so I'll have a little bit of a think and see how I'm going to do this. Right, so I did think I could put it, there's a little flat spot just there on the radiator shroud, so I could have just tucked it away there, but it just looks a bit Heath Robinson sort of bodged together, so I didn't really like it. And then I thought, obviously this is going to come through here, so this area here, not all of it's going to be used, so I might be able to just put a bracket on here and install it around there somewhere, so then at least it's still saving area for the intercooler pipe to go through, and also not get in the way of anything else, because the only thing that's down here is going to be the bulbs for the headlight, but because of the design of this, it's just a quick pop off and you can move it out of the way. So I might stick it here. So yeah, so I'm happy with the location there. So once I move this little bit of a wire over there and tuck it out of the way, it gives me plenty of room. Let me just shift it out of the way properly. Something else in the way. So yeah, so that'll go just about there, which I'm quite happy with. It looks sort of like where it should be. So the next thing to do is, I've just been in garage, found a little bit of alley, which should be about right. So if I weld that, well not weld, but cherry rivet it, riv nut, whatever you want to call it, to there, give it a little bit of a bend, square everything up, and it should fit to that bracket there quite nicely. So there you have it. So that's my little bracket made up. So let me, where has it gone now? Put stuff down and you forget where you've put it. So yes, so that's the bracket. Just let me find somewhere I can prop you up. So the bracket itself, there's a little lip, so I'll show you in a minute and it'll all make sense. But if I put you, oh, where's it gone? You go in there, that goes over that, you go on there. T'other end, that one. Through there, that one on there, you through there. And I'll get these nipped up and I'll show you what I mean. And so there you have it. So what I was saying about those little spacers, those spacers there in between that bracket are because of this little lip here on this pressed steel. So what that's done is it's spaced it out, so it's not going to rub on anything and create any rust, and it's still nice and firm. And then that slots into there. I'm not going to push it down because I don't want it on fully yet, but then that just clicks into place nicely there. So I don't think that looks too bad. And then all I've got to do is get the hose from there, take it this direction, have it through there or underneath this thing and over, and then I just link it up to the original coolant lines. Don't know why I said coolant lines, I mean the washer lines. And then I've just got these wires here, which are the positive and negatives for it, which then go to the positive and neg on the pump there. So I'm pretty sure that, is it that one? I can't remember which one it is now, but I'll figure it out. Right, so I've just had a very, very exciting text, so I'll show you in the next clip. So if you hadn't guessed it, it's back from the welders. Look at that. All welded up now. So he's done my downpipe, he's done the mid pipe, he's done my water pipe, and he's also done the end of my wastegate there. So that, obviously, if you remember, I clocked that the other way. So yes, I can sort of get everything put into place now on the exhaust side. Still got the inlet side to do with regards to the intercooler piping, but at least I can be getting on with that. So now that I've finished the water pump, I don't need to do anything else with that apart from the wiring, which I can do later. Wires are wires, they're not too bad. So yeah, so let's get this put back on and we'll go from there. So that's the manifold temporarily put back in place. The next thing to put back on is the turbo, and then we can get the turbo snail, which is over there, put back onto this, and then we can start making mock-ups for the intercooler piping. So there's the turbo back on, and the next thing to do is obviously this, because this is the most important part when it comes to the intercooler piping. So we need to put that slotted on there into place, and then we use these little clamps here and these little nuts to put it all back together. One on. I don't need them all, just going to put two on for now. It's only for locating it. So just need to move that braided hose out of the way. I'll go through that gap. Yeah, so move you out of the way. And then that wants to go about there. So let's, I think they're 12, so please be 12. Yes. There we go, nip that, and there we go. That is the turbo back in place. So now what we can do, we can mock up the pipework that comes off of here, goes down and underneath to link it up to the pipework on the intercooler. So it's been a few days now since that last little clip because I've been busy doing other bits and pieces, but getting back to this intercooler piping. So as you remember in that last little clip, I'd literally just put the turbo housing back on. So I've just backed it off slightly, so I've got a bit of wiggle room in it. And I did notice quite a big flaw in what I'm trying to do. So as you can see down here, the bottom of this pipe, as you can see, that there is now touching the manifold. And I've got roughly about an inch worth of gap there. So if I move that all the way over to this side to create a gap, and you see the angle of it is facing towards this chassis leg. Ideally, I wanted it to be facing straight down, and I don't think I quite got the clocking angle right on this pipe. So unfortunately, if I was to put a silicone coupler on there, by the time you've then got the pipe on, you're into the chassis leg. So it needs to be as far over this way as possible so that I can get the pipe to come straight down this gap and miss this leg. But if I do that, this is then touching the exhaust manifold. And as anybody knows, these silicone couplers do not want to get that hot. So it can't be touching and it can't go the other way. So I'm stuck in a little bit of a dilemma at the minute as to having to move stuff about. So I did purchase this. Now this was going to be used so that I can cut the ends off that pipe and weld these casted ends onto the ends of the intercooler, because the intercooler is a 2.5 inch system, not a 3, and the rest of the system is a 3-inch pipe. So there's going to be a bit of a restriction when it comes to the intercooler inlets and outlet in terms of the airflow. So my idea is this. As you can see, I've already started making a little bit of a mark on here. So if I cut a 45-degree angled pie cut out of this and then weld it to there, if I do it at 45 degrees, I can't do this with one hand very easily, but it'll be aiming downwards towards where I need it to be. So that is looking like the only way in which I can do this so that I don't keep cooking silicone pipes, because the last thing I want is a fire under my engine bay. I know silicone pipes don't tend to burn, but they do tend to go very, very fragile once they get a bit too hot, and then I'll be replacing them every 10 minutes. So I'm going to try and do it right the first time, and then hopefully there should be no issues later on down the line. So I'm going to have a bit of a tidy up down here, move some pipes out of the way, and have a proper look at this. So I've cut one of these pipes. These are my old intercooler pipes. It's not me nice shiny new ones. So I've took one of the old pipes that I originally had on the car many, many years ago. And I've cut that so that I can sort of see where things need to go. And that pipe there fits quite nicely. It comes through under there at a correct angle. So that pipe on the floor is no good. I think it was this one. So as you can see, it's like a U shape, but it's shorter on this end than it is on that end. And then that, let me get my hand in there, that will offer up to, is it that way? Can't remember, because somewhat like that. So as you can see, there is a bit of a mismatch, but I can make that up. That's no issue there. And also the intercooler, excuse me, the intercooler isn't quite sat where it needs to be, so there is quite a lot of wiggle room in that. So that gap under there can be made up. So at least now I know that if I put a 45-degree angle on there, it's going to be the correct angle for what I need, basically. So yeah, it looks like that's going to be the only way in which I can do this, because as you can see, that silicon coupler is touching the exhaust manifold there. So it's not going to take long before that thing fails. So I'm going to get some tape out now and hopefully tape a 45 to the bottom of that and see what things are like. So that's the 45-ish sort of angle that I've just cut. So let me just shut this door. So hopefully, let's see how it fits and if it's at the right angle. So it's looking somewhat alright. It might need to be a bit more of an angle yet. Sort of okay, but not quite. You can see that big gap. I reckon that's the angle I need it at. So I'm just going to grab a straight piece of pipe. Put this on the end of it with the silicon coupler basically, and then offer it up to where it needs to be, and then I'll see what sort of gap I've got there as to what sort of angle I need to chop off of it. So like that. So I've just offered it up. So what I'm going to do now is insert this pipe into the engine bay there, because it needs to go just underneath the anti-roll bar there. So again, I'm struggling with one hand here, so I'm just going to put you down for a sec. So as you can see, I need it to be roughly about there, and then when I offer it up there, that's how far off I've got the angle on that thing. So yeah, it's not ideal, but it's not something that I can't take out of this bit of pipe. So I've only got one more go at this. So I'm going to keep the angle as it is there from this point, and I'm just going to draw another line across and around here, and hopefully when I cut it, it should be alright this time. So just had a thought, the opposite end of the thing that I cut off, which is this little pie cut, might be slightly better. So I'm just going to offer that up now and see how this fits instead. So unfortunately, the other end of that pipe doesn't fit quite. It's almost there, but just not quite enough. So what happens with it then is, instead of kicking out this way, it's sort of aiming more downwards. So it's ending up hitting all of the power steering line bolts and all this lot here. So I need to adjust that end and not that end. So this is the end here that I need to modify, make slightly different on that angle on the end. So I've just marked out on that pipe there the angle in which I need to cut it. So just have to go and trial and error it again. So back to the garage. I'm not going to bore you with angle grinding, I'll just show you this once it's finished. So I've finished off that pipe, so I've now cut a little bit more of an angle off of that, so it does fit a lot better, but unfortunately I don't have any welding capabilities for aluminium, so at the minute I can't tack it together to hold it into place to get the rest of the pipe to hang off it without using tape basically. And obviously anybody that knows anything about tape, it can stick and it looks like it's held, but it actually rocks a bit and moves around. So it's only intercooler piping, there are silicon couplers that are going to hold it in place, so it doesn't need to be too critical, but I want it as near as damn it. So I'm going to get them taped up in a minute, take them back out to the car and have a look at how they fit. But before I do that, whilst I was in the garage, I've had a nice little delivery. So these are what I've had delivered. So in the Tarks box, obviously there's bolts, and in here is the throttle body adapter for said throttle body. So basically, this throttle body is, I think it's an 82mm throttle body, and obviously I'm using 3-inch intercooler piping. So this is a 3-inch pipe, so that basically will just drop on there and locates on the throttle body, but reduces the pipe down to 3-inch. Now, I don't know why I went for an 82mm. I could have gone for a 76 and it would have been near as damn it perfect straight off the bat, but I didn't, so I've had to buy an adapter. I would have needed to buy an adapter anyway, but I just thought, sod it, I'm going to have to buy one. So there we go. So that is that. On this one here, this is probably a little bit more up my street. So as you can see, I've already opened it and had a look. But this is the new Hell thermostatic sandwich plate for the oil cooler. So this is going to be a nice piece of kit, so that obviously engine temps, when they get up to temp, they're going to let the the oil flow through a cooler basically. So this is a nice piece of kit. So this gets rid of my original engine water jacket cooler, if you remember, because I had to cut the pipework away to get the coolant pipes for the heater matrix to work properly as I wanted them to. So that's going to replace all of the oil filter side of stuff. I'm still going to be using the Greddy, I can't remember its official name now, but basically the Greddy's version of the oil filter relocation kit. So I'm going to move that somewhere a bit more accessible. But I'm also going to be using a oil cooler as well. So I've got a lot of hoses that I'm going to have to put into place for this. So I'm not massively looking forward to the hose side of things, because they're all AN10s, PTFE. They're all a bit thick and a bit rigid and don't like to bend, as you know. So getting back to the throttle body, I also bought this. Now this thing here is the adapter basically that goes on the back side of this. So you've got the back side of your throttle body, which normally would bolt up to your inlet plenum, but because of the bolt pattern on these, they are totally different to the bolt pattern on the inlet plenum. So I've had this knocking about in the garage for ages. As you can see, it's a bit beaten up and bruised, but as you can see, when you offer that up, you saw from earlier on in the video, the bolt hole patterns are flipping miles out. So this thing here offers up to that perfectly, and it has an O-ring seal groove in the back of there, so that seals against that. And then this plate is then going to get welded to that, so I'll be able to clock that at whichever angle I need to get the bolt holes to line up, and also to make this throttle body look nice and neat on the inlet plenum. So there's a few bits coming together slowly. So there's still a bit of welding to do, obviously, because them two have got to be welded together, unfortunately. I can't just glue them or out like that, because they're going to be holding back boost. So yeah, that's about it really. I'm going to try today at some point, because it is getting on a bit now. It's 7:20 in the evening, so I'm going to try. I can't remember what I was going to do. My head's just totally gone. I'm going to do the pipe. That was it. I couldn't think of what it was. So yeah, the intercooler pipe. I'm going to offer that up. I'm going to get it taped and held as near as damn it, and then we're going to go from there. So just off camera there, I've been having a bit of a play. So I've basically used, well, I don't know where it's gone now. There's another one in there. It's a 45, long 45. So I've used the straight edge of the 45, and then where it comes down here, it was roughly about to here, the length of that pipe initially. So I've cut the pipe shorter, and then I've used an old pipe that I had lying around, hence why this is all full of dirt and grime, and cut the 90 onto there and just taped it on for the time being. I've had to use some electrical tape because I don't have any way of welding the alley together. I can't just spot weld it, tack weld it together like I did with the stainless, because my welder doesn't do aluminium. So can he do that? But I do have an exciting update coming, so that'll be for another day though. But getting back to this, so that's that in place. So I'm quite happy with the position. There's plenty of clearance on everything. I can still get bits in and out if I need to. The next job is this pipe. So obviously again, this is an old pipe, so that as you can see now, is all lining up properly. So the next thing to do is the intercooler itself. So as you can see, it's currently still loose. So I've made up 2 brackets. So there's a bracket just there and there's another one down there. So I just need to get those ground back paint wise, and then I can get these welded into position, and then I can get the intercooler in its final position. And then I'm going to use one of the offcuts of, not this one, but an offcut of the aluminium pipe, and just basically weld them onto the end of there. But I'm going to have to cut the ends off here. I've got a little trick, a little tip to show you, just if you ever do come to doing that. Right, so that's the intercooler off. So down here you can see I've marked, not very clearly on the camera, but I have marked this cross member. So these brackets are just going to sit on the top of here like so, and get welded like that. And as you can see, these bolts, I've actually threaded these brackets, so these bolts are a fixed bolt in there now, so I don't have to faff around with a spanner on each side when I come to take the intercooler on and off. So next thing I need to do, grind this back to a bit of bare metal, same with this, and then I can get welding those brackets on and into place. And that's pretty much the intercooler in position then. So that's another little job nicely ticked off the list. And so there we have it, that's them brackets mounted into place there. So I just need to do one more coat of paint, but I'll let these fully dry first. I don't think they're far off because it's quite a warm day today. So I'll give them another coat of paint in a bit, and then I get the intercooler mounted, and then we'll get on with that end. We'll get in there. So I've got the throttle body to do next, as in where it needs to be clocked and how to sort of mount it, because I've not got that bracket for it fully made up yet. So this is said bracket, so that's going to sit on there, but obviously it's going to be slightly cocked over to the side so they can get access to the bolts for the inlet plenum, and the throttle body will sit on this face here. So I'm literally just going to go to car now, offer this face up to the inlet plenum, and then offer that up to this, find the correct angle in which I need, And then I'm going to run a bead of sellotape around the inside of there to get it to hold exactly where I need it to stay. That's the plan. Right, so the eagle eye amongst you there will notice I had a bit of trouble getting it to fit, and that is because of the bolt pattern on this, again, and the bolt pattern on this flange. Although, when they go together like that, they're okay, and it'll spin around wherever you want it, but once you put the bolt heads in from the other side, the bolt heads are catching on the outside edge of that rim, so it won't allow, so like they're cutting into it like that, so they want to be recessed on this. Now the eagle eye amongst you again will notice that these bolts have actually had these, try and get a bit of a better close up, I've actually turned these down on the lathe just to make them a bit narrower, but I might end up having to use another bit of scrap I've got. So this old donut of aluminium, I've no idea where I got it from, but I've had it knocking about my box of bits for years. So what I might end up doing is making a column out of this on the lathe, turning it out, and then getting them to weld in like an edge so that it's not going to clash with part to part, if you know what I mean. So that's my only other option at the minute. I'm going to go turn these down anyway, make these a bit narrower, and then it'll all fit together, and then I'll figure out how to go about that next. And then at least I can sort of somewhat get the positioning right of this thing for the intercooler piping. So it's only going to change by that much, which can be taken up by a bit of silicone, can't it? By one of the joints. But then again, sod it. If I'm going to do it, I might as well do it now, and then it's done, and then whatever I'm mocking up intercooler pipe work wise, it's going to fit. So I'm going to get this over to the lathe now and start hacking away at this. So watch this space. But as you can see, because of the diameter of this piece of aluminium, my motor just starts to not like it. It slows down to the point that it just won't cut because of the diameter, the torque it's required. As you see, it is a very old lathe this. It's an old Myford 7. So yeah, this might take a while. And as you can see, that motor actually died. It's been on its last legs for a while now. So I'm pretty sure the capacitor's gone in it or something. I'm not quite sure. I don't even know that it has a capacitor on this motor. But for some reason it just decided to just go bleh and stop working. But luckily, I did have another old school motor on one of the shelves just tucked away under there. As you can see, we've got a whole host of crap in this garage. So I've put that on. It works, but listen to the sound of it. That's not a nice sounding motor. So I think the time has come for a massive service on this lathe. I've not done it. I've had it since I was 21. I'm 41 now, so it's been 20 years worth and it's not been serviced once. So the time is coming for it. But for now, I've decided not to machine that piece of aluminium because it's just going to stress everything out, and with the way it's rattling at the minute, I can't trust it. But what I have done is I've taken them M8 fasteners that I had, and as you can see, I've turned them down so the heads are almost non-existent, and they are fitting. So let me just prop you down there. Shut that door. So as you can see, now once I get this ring located, I still have a bit of wiggle room in between, whereas before the heads were touching this outside edge and they were stopping. They were basically, when you were tightening them up, they were straightening up and they were crimping against this edge, so I couldn't actually get the thread started in the plenum. So what I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to go and get this outside again back on the plenum, make sure that it does fit. And then if it does, I'm happy just to use these bolts as is. If not, I'll end up getting some smaller ones, some M6 ones, and basically doing like a bit of a helicoil on the plenum so I can run M6 bolts instead of M8s. It's not ideal, but these are the things you've got to do when you can't afford to buy shit. Right, so that's the Q45 adapter on to this bit. now fits in between there, and as you can see there's no rattle noise. So a couple of these heads are still in contact with this outside face. So I can, and I do have a little bit of wiggle room where I can take a little bit more off the heads, but not a great deal more. So I'm just going to go and do that, and then go from there, see if I can get a bit of float in this. So I've just been and took a little bit more off of each one of these nut bolt heads. Don't want to take any more off, otherwise there's no point in having them. Because they'll no longer be bolts, they'll just be a stud. But that's a lot better. I've still got a bit of movement in it, so that'll do for me, for what I need it for. So I'm going to get this now bolted up to that, get the clocking angle right, and then I can get mocking up from that. So what I've done is this aluminium tape I've got, it was used on the flashing parts of, you know, the plastic roofing to finish the ends of the close off base of them slats in the roofing. So I've used some of that, just run it around the inside edge. Not that you can see it because it's alley on alley, but run it around the inside edge of there to hold them together, mainly because there's no flex in that then, so that can be held solidly in place on the plenum. And there we have it. So that is all of the inlet plenum and the throttle body temporarily put into position where I want it. So that'll be nice because the plug will be here, it'll run off there, over the top and then underneath, so you won't see the vast majority of it. I could have put that round the other way, but then you'd have had this great big part of the inlet on show over this side. I just think this side looks a bit neater than that. So yeah, so it's a proper labour of love, this car, I'm telling you. Nothing is ever just straightforward. But at least now this side, intercooler pipe wise, is sorted. So I just need to get a little flaring tool so I can flare the outside of there. I might even use that plier trick, you know, where you put a blob or something on the inside of a pair of pliers and just crimp and keep going around the pipe till you've got a nice flared edge. Or I might just buy a cheap one off Amazon and see what's what. So now that that is in on that side, the next job to do is to get the intercooler back on, because now those brackets are fully dry because it's the next day. So just get to it. So there you go, that's that mounted now on the two bolts underneath. Not quite sure how they'd moved, but they had. But as a result, this hole here also isn't lining up. So I've got absolutely no idea. Everything was held in place, it was tacked and then welded. So I've no idea how it's moved so much for two little tabs. So this mount here though, as you can see, it is on an angle, it's not up square, so I'm just going to bend this square and then at least it'll line up with that hole. It's the only way I can think of doing it now. Don't need much, it's only soft alley, so I think it'll just be a case of sticking a end of a hammer in there and hitting the other end of the hammer and bending it over a touch. So let's just do that. So there we have it, that hole almost lines up. Hopefully, yeah, that bolt will go in there now. So let's get all this nipped up and then we know where we're going from this end then. And there we go. So I've made a start with a couple of the old angles that were offcuts from the pipes from doing them bits down there. So as you can see, that's going to go nicely through the floor here. I didn't want to be too close to this tub, because if you're too close to the tub then you're too close to the wheel on the other side. So if I go through here nicely, it follows basically where that bolt is there, underneath here to that bolt, so it'll come out just about there. So hopefully that will be a nice spot in which to bring it through. So yeah, we're getting there, making progress, but I need to go make a phone call. Why upside down? So I've just offered this up, I've had it on there. So where this aims downwards is right where that black ring is. So the next thing to do now is, because I don't have a hole saw that size, I'm just going to chain drill it out and then I'll clean it up with a little die grinder afterwards. So about time I just got on with it. And there we have it. That took a bit of fettling to get that out of there. Fingers are sore now from Axel. But anyway, got an hole. Now I just need to clean it up, get rid of those really sharp bits, and take it from there. I had to take that inlet manifold thing off because it were, as you can see, it had just started to pull apart, so tape started to just let go. But it'll do, it'll hold for now. And there you go. So I've just put a bit of edge protection around it. It's only cheap plasticky stuff at the minute, and that's literally just to stop me scratching my pipe when I keep putting it in and out of there. So this will be getting replaced and it'll all be getting sealed up, so none of that exposed material will rust. So next thing to do is to get the inlet back on, the pipes put into place, and see what is needed under here to line it up to the intercooler. So just stuck a piece of straight pipe on there. As you can see, it's popping through there quite nicely. It's almost in line height wise with the intercooler, which is nice. But what I need to do now is put the front bumper back on again, so that I know how much space in that area I've got in which I can move a pipe about. So I've got this old piece of pipe here that needs a really good cleaning out, but when you offer it up to the intercooler there, just look at how that aligns there. Honestly, I couldn't have got that any better. So what I need to do now is obviously put a bend on this end, or on the end of that, more than likely on this end. So what I need to do, offer that up to there, and then figure out the bend angles of where the pipe needs to be cut. Right, so as you can see, the bend angle on the end of this pipe, although it looked right initially, now I've took the bumper off, it's not going into the intercooler square, it's off at a janky angle, so it's making the silicons bulge on one side, so it's not going to clamp round properly. It actually wants to sit there, which is not a million miles off, but I've got plenty of pipes to play with. So I've got two of these 90s here, so I'm just going to cut one of these and make this fit better. As you can see, 90 degree there, goes directly, lines up with that pipe. So I'm going to get this one out of the way, and then we can go from there. Right, so as you can see, the tape inside that joint is just about to fail on me, but I had a bit of a brainwave, so let me just swap hands really quickly before that tape fails. So that pipe there is now a single piece with a 90 in it, and then all I've done is I've took the 90 off the other end of that little pipe, and that goes straight on the intercooler to there. So if I just rest you on my knee, so that goes on there like that, and that's going to line up to that. Can't really do it at the minute because I've only got one hand, but it does actually line up quite nicely. And there we have it, look at that. So there we go, pipe goes down, round, through there and into intercooler. Ah, oh, not joking, this has been a nightmare. Ali, because he can't tack it, well I can't just at the minute, It's just a nightmare trying to do it all with tape. The stainless was easier, believe it or not, because I could tack it together. So yeah, so we're nearly there. This thing's going to fail soon on the glue on that tape. As you can see, there's quite a lot of movement now in that joint. It's going to fall apart. It's only that bit of pipe work pushing it back up there together that's holding it on. So now that that is done and I'm happy, the only other thing left to do is these 2.5 inch inlets need cutting off, and the 3 inch putting on the end, basically same length as what they are now, but 3 inch jobbies instead of the 2.5s, because otherwise you've got a restriction there and a restriction there. You've got nice 3 inch all the way through and 2.5 there. So, but for today I'm going to leave it there because I really can't be bothered. So yeah, we're getting there though. So if you remember from earlier on in the video, I said I've got a little bit of an update, a little bit of exciting news. Basically, the 3D printer is now over there in that corner, and that has cleared me up some space for one of these. So I've now got myself an AC, DC TIG welder. So I can now do some aluminium and some steel TIGging. So this is a massive, massive learning curve for me. So I've never ever done it before. So I've been practicing a little bit off camera here, hence why this video is taking a little bit longer to upload than normal. But I'm just trying to find the last pipe I did, this one here. So this is some cast aluminium. These are the end caps off the intercooler, if you remember. So yeah, the welds, they're not perfect, but they're welded. So any welds that are going to be on show will get ground, and they're going to get Cerakoted anyway, so all the smooth piped out look. But the next job to do is this elbow onto that turbo housing so that we can crack on and go from there. So I'm going to make a start now on tacking this together, make sure it's in the right place, and then I can fully weld it in. So yeah, I'll show you the end result. It's exciting. And so there we have it. So that's that bit welded on. I'm not going to lie, obviously these are my first ever aluminium TIG weld, and it's on some thick sort of cast aluminium, so I'm not 100% sure I know what I'm doing. I probably could have done with the amps being a little bit higher, I think, because I've not got a lot of penetration going on there. But for what I need it for, it's going to do the trick. So yeah, there you go. So since that last little clip, I have been practicing a bit more with some alley, but thin stuff, I just can't get it. As you can see, I get a few decent bits going on, and then it just melts through. So as you can see, it's not great. So I've got a lot of practice to go with aluminium stuff. So for the time being, all the aluminium stuff I'm going to get sent off to my welder for him to weld it up, just because it's easier and then I don't mess it up, because when it comes to crucial stuff, last thing I want to do is mess it up. So intercooler, as you can see, I cut the end pipes off in that last little clip. See how that one's got number 2, this pipe here has a number 2, so that there is now going to get welded onto the end of there, and it's now opened up internally to the 3 inch instead of having the 2.5 inch restriction in the intercooler. So now that that's done, all the pipes are taped in the position that they need to be in, so I can get all them sent away now to get welded. But I have had a practice on some stainless, and I could TIG weld stainless relatively easily. So there is one last little job that was needed to be done, and if you remember, that was the screamer pipe. So I've had an elbow turn up, and yeah, so that is the next task. Get the turbo screamer pipe plumbed into position and welded up, and then that's finished. And then once all that is done, it's a case of bolting it all in permanently, which is just fantastic. So progress is being made. Right, so it's been a couple of days since that last clip. Work and all that sort of stuff gets in the way, doesn't it? But as you can see, I have made up my screamer pipes. I've sort of done it off camera because I'm not 100% with the welder still. So as you can see, those welds look absolutely terrible, but that is because I ended up cutting this pipe about 10mm too short. So where the V-band is to where that last weld is, there's a 10mm strip of steel, stainless steel in between there. So that's why them welds look so terrible, because it's my first go on stainless pretty much. And yeah, so but at least it's done. So it's not going to come off. It's only a screamer pipe. You're never going to see it. It's tucked away underneath the engine. So now that that's done, I'm literally about to nip out now. I'm going to drop off all of these pipes, the intercooler and all that lot to get them welded up, and then hopefully in the next clip it will be all of that lot being permanently installed. So I've just been in touch with somebody regarding the turbo to see if I can get the old style HKS turbo, the TO4Z, but getting some nice newer internals in there just to speed up the spool but still maintain its top end. So hopefully they can do that, and then we can have a newer turbo but still making it look old school. So hopefully they can do it. So on that note, I'm going to leave the video there, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. We'll have a few bits that we can just be bolting into this thing, and then I don't think in reality it's that far off giving it the first turn of the key, because it's almost all in. It's almost all in, which is exciting. So right, anyway, catch you in the next one, and again, thanks for watching.